One of the challenges with plates, as I mentioned before, is that when you wrap this plate around the cylinder with the tape on it, and the ends come very close, or you just don't happen to put any seal, the edge of this plate wants to pop up. Okay? A lot of guys will take, not this type because this is a dry erase marker, but they'll take something like a Marco brand or one of these black markers, and they'll wipe across the leading and the trailing edge of the plates here. And then they'll stick that down to the mounting tape. Now I've seen that, I've used it, I heard it, and I personally haven't done any exhaustive tests that prove to me that that technique works, but so many guys out there are doing it that I have a feeling that maybe it does work. And one of the explanations I've heard is that a solvent in the marker demoisturizes or removes any moisture that might be at that edge, enhancing adhesion. I don't know if it's that, or I might guess that maybe the marker adheres well to the plate and adheres better to the sticky back than the plate and forms some kind of a barrier or a layer there that helps the two of them stick together. I really don't know because I haven't experimented with it, but I do know that a lot of guys are doing that. They're taking a marker and wiping across the edge, and that's fine. Having said that, when you start getting real serious and you start doing some high quality tone work, and like this plate right here is got half tones, it's one of 4 processed plates. You can actually, if you wipe the back of the plate with a marker and mount it and print, you can see the effects of that on the halftone image. It'll actually increase your dot gain in that area. I've seen that. So it's a variable that I don't like to introduce in the process if I can get away with it. Having said that, if it works for you guys, that's the important part. Okay? All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this equipment here that I use for mounting narrow web plates. Okay? Now what you see here is, this is a very common plate mounter for a narrow web press. Okay? This is a plate cylinder. Okay? This cylinder is going to end up mounted in here. This conical end of this piece comes into here, you snug it down, and you have some freedom of movement. Now watch this. In this particular case, you have these increments here, which we're not going to utilize. But this is called a dividing head. It says start here, and you have all these divisions around it. Now, for example, you have a start here. Halfway around it, you have a number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're even, and that's because anytime you divide this cylinder by either 2 images around, 4, 6, or 8, or 10, you'll end up landing at this point. Now, what do I mean? Watch this. If you start here, let's say I didn't have one plate that would go completely around this cylinder, but instead I had, let's say, 3 small plates, but I wanted to space them equidistantly around this cylinder on my tape, or put 3 pieces of tape and put 3 pieces of plate there. In a case where I don't have a continuous plate, but I have what we call slugs, then I might want to be able to divide this cylinder evenly 3 times around so that the plate is spaced equally around the cylinder. Well, in that case, you have a little, let's see where it is in this thing. There it is. There's a little knob, and it doesn't look like they have this set right. Okay, so apparently folks don't use this much. But when you use this knob, you're able to actually stop the cylinder at those increments. Like for example, here's the start, and we will go around to the 3, and it would stop there. It's in a peg, and then we go around to this where the 3, the 6, and the 9 are, and then we come back around to the start. Okay, you get the idea. This dividing head, if you need to investigate it on your own. It's not the purpose of this discussion, but it does allow you to do that. Another thing you'll have to decide is whether the gear goes on this side of the mount or on that side, and there's some advantages, and that depends on your workflow, and I'm not going to go into that either. You have a ruler here that aids in the placement of the plate across the cylinder, depending on where the center or the edges or some other reference point needs to be, and that's something that you can learn to use over time and even incorporate in your documentation so that you know ahead of time, in order to place a certain plate in the correct position, I'm going to need to go to this point or that point. And it looks like here they have a little piece of tape that helps tell them that that's the center of the press, for example. Without going much into that, you probably want to run everything on your machine so that it starts off centered, with the plate mounted in the center of the center line of the cylinder, with the gear centered on the machine and all of that. But we're not going to speak much more about the positioning of plates on the machine.